President Biden and his remarks on International Women's Day. We appreciate all of you who have been joining us for that whole segment there, but we're going to switch it up and bring you out to a story from Northern California. The master tenant of the Ghost Ship warehouse, where 36 people died in a fire, was sentenced today, but because of good behavior and time served, Derick Almena will spend no more time in custody. I'm going to bring in Fox 2's Brooks Jaros. He has the details on this story. Brooks, this is quite the development today.
Well, this is one of those cases that has been going on for several years, and there's been so many twists and turns, and then you add COVID-19 on top of it, and you end up with a nearly empty courtroom, a defendant sitting there rocking back and forth, staring at a screen, and forced to hear family after family talk about their loved ones and how they cast blame on him, Derick Almena, the master tenant of the Oakland Ghost Ship warehouse, where 36 people, as you mentioned, lost their lives. This was back in 2016. It was an artist collective where people actually lived in this warehouse, illegally, in fact. And it was described as a death trap. And now, fast forward, after that fire, there was a lot of blame cast toward the city, toward the building owners, but more importantly, the master tenant who allowed people to live there and also allowed parties to happen, which is what happened on that December day when these 36 people lost their lives. We heard these victim impact statements today, and they were very emotional, very fiery. A lot of pent-up frustration has come to this moment. Here, I want to read you just a couple things that some of the families said. One of them said, "You do not even comprehend the sorrow we feel." Another family saying, "This lenient slap on the wrist sentence is vastly inappropriate." And that's how we get to this point. There was supposed to be a trial that was going to be occurring this year. That ended because a plea deal was offered by prosecutors. Now, this actually happened once before, and it was rejected. That plea was thrown out. That plea deal was thrown out, and the trial went forward, but it was deadlocked, 10-2 in favor of convicting, ultimately ending in a hung jury. So then here we are again, ready to go through the trial a second time, and it ends in this plea deal. 12 years is what he was actually sentenced to by the judge today, but because of all the time served, he was actually let out early with an ankle monitor because of the coronavirus pandemic. They're trying to reduce prison population, and as a result, he has been living at home with his family with an ankle monitor for quite a few months now, and that is what he will do for the next couple of years as he finishes out his sentence.
And Brooks, what about restitutions for these families who were obviously severely affected by what happened?
Yeah, great question. $181,000 is how much together as a group the families will be paid. So the judge did order that restitution today.
Yeah, I'm showing photos right now of those 36 people whose lives were lost in that horrible fire there. I mean, you read off one of the statements there, but how's the rest of the families doing with this news here? Do they believe that this was just a slap on the wrist, essentially?
They are not doing well. I've spoken to a few of them by phone this evening, and they've said that they believe that Almena is just getting away with it. They would have liked to see more time. They would also like to see other people held accountable. You know, I mentioned before the building owners, the city, firefighters had been there, inspectors had been there. It was well known and documented that issues there. Yet here we are. He was the only one that was ultimately criminally charged in this case. Another interesting thing that happened in court today, now reporters were not allowed in court. We had to listen from our phones on a audio stream. We weren't allowed to record it, but that is the only way we were able to hear those victims' families. But the thing that was very striking is all of the family members kept saying Derick Almena was falling asleep in the middle of the victim impact statements. And he even knocked over a cup of coffee. And so they were concerned, hey, is this guy on drugs? Why isn't he paying attention? The judge stopped the proceedings, had the bailiffs check him to make sure he didn't have any sort of prescription drugs on him or anything like that. And then he was told, hey, you need to pay attention. You cannot doze off. This is serious. But families felt that was insulting and kind of a slap in the face. So, but no surprise for this case, because over and over again, just when you think, okay, justice may be served, another twist or turn occurs.
Yeah, so when they say good behavior and enough time served, what does that mean? What type of good behavior has he exhibited?
Well, essentially, he's been in jail for more than 3 years, and he followed all the rules, didn't really create any major issues there. And so what happens, at least in California, for every day that you're in jail, you get 2 days credit. So, if it's, let's say, a 10-year sentence, you would serve 5 if you have good behavior and then be able to go on probation. So in this case, this is a 12-year sentence, which would mean he would technically need to serve 6 years. He's already served several years, and he'll get that good behavior. And also, because of the coronavirus pandemic, he's serving the remainder of his sentence on an ankle monitor because he is seen as low flight risk and nonviolent.
Yeah, this is quite the story there. Is there anything else that you're going to be following? Obviously, this decision was made today, and he's going to have to wear that ankle monitor and be on his best behavior. But are there any more developments that we should be watching for with the families, I guess I should say?
There will be there will be a restitution hearing where they'll discuss, payment plans and that sort of thing. That's a little bit more on the legal side of things. A little bit of justice that the families did already receive that I haven't mentioned yet, but there was a large civil lawsuit that was filed on behalf of the majority of those families, and they were given a large payout, both by the city of Oakland and other key players that were part of this or were blamed for this tragedy. So they are getting some sort of monetary justice, but like they said today, over and over again, they said, nothing is going to bring our loved ones back. And that's what's so sad. Even the defense attorney for Derick Almena felt as though true justice will never be served because there's such a loss of life.
Yeah, and it's kind of tough that it was a closed court today. You couldn't really see the reactions from Derick, and obviously these drawings, I'm pulling up these drawings and showing people his face on there, but he's wearing a face mask, and I'm sure it was a difficult day for the family to get any sense of closure on this.
I think of one mom in particular, and I'm just looking here because I want to read something that what she said in court. Her name is Colleen Dolan, and she lost her daughter in this tragedy. It was an evening where they had music and a party, and all these people were inside this warehouse when the fire started. The cause has never been determined. She's been very, very vocal and very emotional, and is not afraid to hold back or mince words. She talked directly to Derick Almena today, and she cursed him, saying, "I do not forgive you, and I never will." She said, "May you burn in the hellish nightmares you created." She and so many others who are affected by this horrible tragedy are constantly having nightmares or have to relive this over and over again, especially when we went through the trial with the hung jury the first time. And they've always felt that Mr. Almena didn't have remorse, and they still feel that way. And while his defense attorneys argue that this is something he carries with him, this tragedy, every day of his life, these families also feel that same feeling of they'll never be able to hug their loved one again. It was just, they've never been able to say goodbye. So I don't know what the answer is, but for them, I think the only thing that helped was the fact that they all were able to mourn and share each other's stories together, both inside and outside of the courtroom.
Yeah, 36 stories right there. So, well, Brooks, we appreciate you being with us here on News Now from Fox and breaking down this case. And I'm sure that we'll be hearing a little bit more about it. We'll be keeping a close eye on the good standing that hopefully Derick Almena stays in, and we'll keep in contact about it.
All right, thanks for checking in.
And we're going to move on to some of the other stories of the day. If you're new to us here on News Now from Fox, it's kind of what we do.